Welcome to the webinar, Three T's to Case Close, Technology, Team, and Training. This lecture is being presented by Dr. Sable A. Muntean, DMD, MHSA, and we're going to begin shortly. And with that, it is my distinct honor to introduce Dr. Sable A. Muntean, DMD, MHSA. She graduated from Florida's Lecom School of Dental Medicine, earning her doctorate of dental medicine and master in health services administration degrees. She then completed an advanced education in general dentistry residency and an implant fellowship at Southern Illinois University School. In 2022, Dr. Muntean became the first full-time female dentist at the St. Louis VA Hospital and is currently chief editor of Ignite DDS's Get Lit newsletter geared toward new dentists. And with that, it is my honor to say, take it away, Dr. Muntean.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate everyone for being here tonight. Very excited to discuss the 3 T's to case close at 80%. We're going to discuss how to consistently boost case acceptance in your practice. So let's get going. Here we go. So again, thank you, NDX, for inviting me to speak today. I just want to declare that neither I nor any member of my family have a financial agreement with any corporate organization offering financial support or grant monies regarding my continuing dental education presentation today, aside from receiving an honorarium from NDX to present this educational content. Just to help you all get a taste of who I am, past the bio that Jessica wrote, but this was when I graduated from dental school. So these are my parents. My parents are my most important people in my life. My father is a dentist. He retired in 2022, and my mom is, or I guess was, because they both retired, the office manager. So they worked together but drove separately. So if any of you are in that similar situation with your partners, please, let me know. It's just a fun fact. But yeah, my dad was always the one who was staying past 6 o'clock when everything closed. And then, at 6 o'clock, my mom was like, bye, need to go pick up Sable from whatever I was at. And yeah, so I really have had the honor of having my parents be my strongest supporters and getting a lot of advice from the both of them when it comes to the dental world. And I got to practice a little bit in private practice and then now at the VA, which I'll show you a little bit. But here's when I was in the my AEGD residency on the left-hand side, and then in the fellowship on the right-hand side. As you can see, people were social distancing because it was 2020, so that's why the picture's taken with all of us a little bit further apart. But I am originally from California, went to dental school and got my master's in Florida at the same time. And then, as was said, went to Illinois. So a lot of people are always like, what are you doing here? Why are you in the Midwest, from being in such other places? But I actually really enjoy being here in the Midwest and having 4 seasons, even though it was very weird this past week. It feels like Florida because it's bright outside and it's raining at the same time. I don't understand it, but it's been washing my car quite well. Here was in my implant fellowship, and I like the little laughter icon. Thank you. I was in my implant fellowship over here and got to experience something really cool. It's something called Navident, which is similar to Yomi, which is what is becoming more popular nowadays, especially with specialists. But just a nifty little thing to show you all of how, another way of placing implants where basically you take a CBCT of the patient. And then if you look, I'm not looking at the patient. I don't even have loops on or anything like that. And I basically am hooked up. My handpiece is hooked up with some sensors, and the patient, you can see, has some sensors around his head. And through those sensors and the CBCT all matching up perfectly, and a guide that's inside, or I'm sorry, no guides. some other sensors that are inside, but I am told exactly how to angle the handpiece through something that kind of looks like a target. And once I'm at that bullseye, meaning I've angled it the correct way, then I start drilling and start doing my osteotomy and eventually placing the implant. So again, just a nifty way of placing implants. But here was when I was in private practice. And as I said, I did that for 2 years. And then this opportunity opened up at the VA in St. Louis. And I'm very honored to be working over there. I can't believe it's about 3 years now. And over here, there's a little, I don't know if my mouse is working, but there's a little window up here above where it says VA or Veterans Affairs Medical Center. And that's the area where I warm up my lunch. And that's where the dental service is, and we serve over 16,000 veterans. And it's just truly an honor to be able to take care of them. And I just wanted to share, I know this is completely random and has nothing to do with what I'm talking about today, but I just had a really nice experience today with one veteran who he found out that I'm from Thousand Oaks in California, and that's how we got to get to know each other a little bit more. And he's been my patient for about a year or two now. And today he brought in this photo that he like blew up and printed out for me. And it was a photo from a place that he used to serve in the same area that I'm from. And they did a dedication for a Valley Oaks memorial. And he was like, "Oh, do you recognize this? I brought you something, do you recognize this place?" And I'm like, "Why does this place look so familiar?" So then I go and I look it up online, and it's actually now where the cemetery is, and it's where my grandfather is buried. And so it was just, he had absolutely no clue that that was the case, but, just to see how all that came around. And he's like, "Yeah, I just wanted to give you this photo. And then he showed me where he was, and back from September of 1970 when they dedicated that memorial. So just beautiful to have those types of interactions with patients, which I'm sure you all experience in your own offices as well. In 2023, I had the big honor of being nominated and accepted as one of the ADA's 2023 10 Under 10 award winners. So one of the top 10 dentists less than 10 years out of dental school. So that was another huge honor that has been great to be able to meet such amazing people and get to do even more with my career. This was when I won that award with my parents by my side, as always. And that's just a little article, that the QR code for an article about it. But lastly, as Jessica had said earlier, I am now chief editor of Get Lit, which goes out to over 23,000 dental professionals every single week. And so every Wednesday, if you scan that code, you can also sign up for it and learn more about, whether you're a dental assistant, whether you're a hygienist, whether you're the dentist, front office. There's lots of little things in there that you can benefit from. So let's get started with what we're talking about today. So just to kind of go through the objectives once more, which I know you all have gone through because you wouldn't have signed up if you didn't. But we're going to identify and eliminate efficiencies in case presentation and treatment workflows to create smoother, more streamlined processes for both our patients and our dental team. We're going to learn more about building I got excited there. There we go. Building a unified and collaborative team dynamic that supports seamless communication and shared goals for improved patient outcomes. So we'll do something really cool called DISC, if you guys have heard of that before, and implement actionable techniques to improve case presentation, enhance patient trust, and confidently close treatment plans at a higher rate. So why does case acceptance matter? Okay, so this is kind of, sometimes this is how it feels for the patient. The patient's the red pawn, and then all of us are that yellow pawn. And so sometimes it can be really intimidating for a patient, especially when they are afraid of, the dentist, and which, have any of you heard that before? I haven't. And it's always, okay, yes, I understand you hate the dentist, or you're scared, or what it's not. And I'm not discounting that. I just want to give you the best experience possible. And something that hit me very hard when I was, before I even started dental school, was I used to go around and market my dad's dental practice. My dad was fee for service. He didn't have a hygienist. He actually did all of the cleanings himself, very more of a boutique type of dental practice. And in a year, I got him over 100 new patients. And I just went out and I marketed and had no clue what I was doing, but was trying to learn and going to like, wedding expos and, talking to brides and stuff like that to try and think of out of the box ideas of people, who would be interested in dental treatment and whatnot. And through one of the networking things that I did, there was something called BNI and another one called Team. So Business Networking International, and then Team was Together Everyone Achieves More. And these two different groups, were ones that I would go to lunch and stuff like that and meet other professionals in the area. And in one of them, there was a lawyer. And this lawyer said something, and he had known me for a number of years, just, growing up, because he is in the same firm that my parents had their, lawyers and whatever set up through. And he made the comment of, Sable, make sure that you realize that you really have to gain the patient's trust very, very quickly, because you are in more than just their personal space very soon. And he's like, normal, personal space is kind of, maybe, about here. I don't know how much you guys can visualize from the screen right now, but you are really like in their zone very, very quickly. And it really hit me hard because I really had to understand of, I'm already in a position where sometimes, the patient has had a bad experience with a dentist. And now I have to tell them that, I see something that maybe, I'm not in any pain. Why does it matter? And I have to explain that to them of, we don't want to get to that point. We want to be able to prevent major problems from occurring. We want to be able to produce long-lasting dentistry. So how am I going to do that in such a short amount of time and be able to get that patient to understand that? And then on top of them, sell them, for lack of a better word, a case that, whether it's quadrant dentistry, whether it's, a single tooth, whatever it is, or a full mouth rehab, I need them to trust me and know that I am telling them the truth. I am telling them what's in their best interest. And how the heck am I going to do that? So, me, myself, personally, I, am someone who likes to have a lot of fun at the office. And whenever I feel like we always have to kind of come up with a good answer when someone says, oh my God, I hate the dentist. And, I kind of will say something along the lines of, oh, well, you haven't had me as your dentist yet, not to show in a cocky way or anything like that, but, please give me a chance, let me have that opportunity to show you who might become your favorite dentist. And it always means a lot to me at the end of the appointments when they say, gosh, I never thought that I'd be laughing at the dentist. I never thought that I'd have such a good time. And I'm always trying to crack jokes, even, when it comes to numbing the patient up. I make little comments of, hey, just close your eyes. I'll close mine too. We're fine. And, the patient's kind of like, wait, what? Or, sorry, I'm late. I was watching this on YouTube. And, because always I get some sort of comment about my age or whatever it might be. And when it comes to age, if you're on this and you're a dentist and you might look a little bit younger, or you are younger, kind of play off of it and just be like, hey, how old do you think I am? Instead of getting, offended and trying to prove yourself, you will prove yourself through the dentistry that you perform. Okay. So why does case acceptance matter? Well, unfortunately, most practices only close 40 to 60% of proposed treatment plan. And this is something that comes from research from both Henry Schein and the Levin Group. And it's actually, so it's more of the 50 to 60 percentile when it's your own patients that you've already established that trust with. But then it's actually only even less than what I wrote there, but it's actually 25 to 35% for new patients. So how are we going to be able to create that trust and create a system within our office that really starts from the moment that that patient calls the office and speaks to a receptionist. That's going to give us that 80% that the top dentists are being able to do. Okay. Because no matter what, you're going to have patients that are going to say no, and that's fine. You don't have to see every single patient that walks into your office, and you don't have to convince them of, what's needed, because maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it's, a patient that is going to be the one that you just don't want to see on your schedule that day, or any day. So, you never know. And everything happens for a reason at the time that it should. And, if it's not working out for you, like, just think about, hey, this is going to make sense at some point. Okay. But low acceptance means that we've missed revenue, we're not providing complete care, and we ultimately have frustrated patients and a frustrated team. And so that's what, we get from these low acceptance rates. And we definitely don't want to have any of those problems if we can help it as much as possible. So what are the top barriers that are causing us to have these low acceptance rate? Number one is patient confusion about need or urgency. Okay. If the patient doesn't really understand what the treatment plan is, they're not really going to go for it. And so I'm someone who is always trying to educate my patients. And I'm not telling them, like, oh, well, the percentage of, I don't even know, dentin versus enamel and, at the CEJ or blah, blah, blah. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about helping them understand certain things, even something so little like a hygienist saying, like, okay, I'm going to say some numbers, in your perio probing, and a 1 to 3 means this, 4 to 5 means and 6 and up is uh-oh, something like that, that really puts it in terms that a patient can understand, is something that it really helps clarify and make a patient kind of calm down a little bit, except if they're hearing the 6 and ups. But helps them maybe even understand that urgency of, hey, I'm getting a lot of those 6 and higher numbers. Maybe I need to be taking care of my oral health a little bit better. Another barrier is lack of trust or rapport. So I've already discussed this in regards to, being able to create that trust, because you're in that very, very close space of that patient and that personal space. And you have to be able to not be a cold person, because that's not going to help you out at all. You have to be warm, you have to be friendly. And, not every dentist is like that. And, but that's okay. But you also have to be able to accommodate yourself to a situation, but also help use your team to help you maybe become a little bit more comfortable. So, like, as a speaker, for instance, something that I learned was, instead of just standing at the front of the room when I'm about to give a lecture, to whatever, 200 people, it doesn't even matter, if it's just 10 people, I was taught that a good thing to do is to walk around, introduce myself to those people while they're coming in, and get to know them a little bit. And by doing that, now, instead of talking to a room full of strangers, I'm talking to some, people that are becoming friends now. Okay. And that's the same thing in your office. Like, if you're the dentist or the assistant or the hygienist or whomever, you need to be able, you're to understand, okay, I'm comfortable around these other people because they're my friends. Not that I just need to talk to those people, but maybe this can make me, I can feed off of them and become a little bit more comfortable with the patients, so they learn how to trust me and find that comfort a little bit more. Financial concerns. That's going to be a barrier at some point in time, no matter what, with, some patient. Okay. So that goes without being said, that people are going to be concerned with, how much something costs. And that's when you need to understand that certain people in your team have certain roles. So, there are some dentists that are just very much against saying, yeah, this is going to cost you this. And that's totally fine, but you need to be able to turn that around and say, oh, I would love to have you talk, sit down and talk to our finance coordinator and discuss how much that's going to cost. I'm just here to really tell you, the plan, and to help you understand why this needs to be done. And then you guys can figure out the financial part of it, because each of us have our expertise over here. Okay. There's nothing wrong with saying that. You don't have to have the answer to everything just because of the role that you're in. Inconsistent communication. I cannot harp on this enough because if you have one person saying one thing and another person saying another thing, that is just not going to help create that trust with that patient. And so, something that's very helpful, and I touch upon it a little bit later also, is that if your assistant starts saying something about what needs to be done, or they see something, obviously they can't diagnose or anything like that, but they're like, hey, yeah, I see that you have this little space over here, maybe an implant or a bridge might be a good choice. I'm sure, Dr. Montine is going to talk about that with you. Then now they've kind of started something that sparked an idea in that patient's head. And then now you come in as the doctor and you are able to say, hey, I see this space and I think, let's discuss different options that we have for this area. Do nothing at all, partial, bridge, implant. Here are the pros and cons. And then you leave. And then the assistant also starts talking a little bit more and kind of saying, yeah, I have a bridge myself, or I have an implant myself. And, any other questions that are crossing your mind, I'm more than happy to answer them. And if I'm not comfortable answering them, I'm more than happy to call the doctor back in here and make sure that we get those questions answered. And so that's a really good way of being able to show that consistent communication, show that everyone is in the same mindset, and be able to really succeed in helping that patient find that comfort and that trust so that case acceptance can go up. And then, of course, overwhelming information, telling them, like I said, CEJ, DEJ, all that fun stuff, that's not going to help them with anything. Giving them too much information can be very overwhelming. But, which we'll go into a little bit later with DISC, there are certain personality types that do like a lot of information, and you'll sense that very quickly. Typically, engineers, that's a really big career that they tend to ask a lot of questions and understand the mechanics of things. And so that's when, maybe that, okay, if I know this person is an engineer, for instance, I need to set up their next appointment to be maybe just, 15 minutes longer, because I know that they're going to ask me a lot of questions that are more detail-oriented questions that I need to respond to. So you'll need to be able to learn how to change your schedule and whatnot in order to accommodate certain patients that maybe need a little bit more time, but then you'll have other patients that are more, I just want straight, direct, show me a picture on the screen. I see there's a black area over there. That means a cavity. Just fix it and let me get out of here. Okay. So reading people is very big. So as we mentioned, the 3 T's that we're going to discuss: technology, so tools to visualize and explain to patients what we see; team, our unified messaging and support; and then training. How are we going to get these skills to communicate with clarity and confidence? Just a heads up, I see that there's chats coming in, and please send chats. I just can't see them at the same time because they cover up my screen. And so I'm more than happy to answer any questions at the end. I wish I could see them also and incorporate them in my presentation right
I
now. But
apologize, Dr. Montine. That was me. You had mentioned DISC, and I thought the
oh,
slides weren't moving for a minute. So, because I know you go
oh,
into more in depth. So, but all is good.
yeah. Okay, no worries. All right, so let's get into the first one, which is technology. So technology drives trust. And that's what, we've discussed is the biggest thing, honestly, that I would say with patients, because that's how you're going to get that patient to stay. That's how you're going to get that patient to accept the case. Because, you guys have seen it before, with colleagues and whatnot. Unfortunately, some colleagues, maybe they're not providing the best dentistry that, we would like, but patients just rave about them because, they feel they have that trust, they have that personality that makes them really trust them. And, that's the harder patient to take care of, because you're like, well, maybe, this could be done a little bit differently. So how can we go about that? And also, I'm sure, in dental school and life, whatever, just as a side note, we've all learned this, but, never poo-poo another dentist, because you never know what that person has gone through. You never know how difficult that case was. You never know how that patient acted. They might be, very, very nice to you in the chair, but the second that you take a drill out, it's going to be a whole other story. So, always, take everything with a grain of salt and, respect each other as colleagues when it comes to, the dentists that are here in the crowd. So modern technology transforms complex treatment into understandable solutions that patients can see and value, because as we know, seeing is believing. So how can we use modern technology that's coming out, today, whether it's Prime Scan, whether it's 3D printing, or not, sorry, not Prime Scan. Prime Scan is one of them, one of the many that are great. So, 3D scanning, impression taking, cameras, whether they're intraoral cameras, or our big DSLR cameras. How can we use those to transform that complex treatment? So let's talk about some of that. So we have our digital intraoral cameras, and these are great to be able to show someone that, hey, they have this problem. Now it's in their face, and because you're putting it on a big screen right in front of their face, and they can see where it's all dark and it's not supposed to look the way that it's being shown in the on that screen. And it helps the patient really understand this is a problem, and it helps create that urgency that we talked about. It helps, for us to be able to have a conversation with that patient, whatever role that we are, of saying like, hey, I see this on the screen or in your mouth, and I want you to be able to see what I see as well. What do you think, what are you seeing? What do you think maybe we need here? Because this can help you go from, if it's correct, whether, it's an MOD versus a crown, because, if it's an MOD, we see the caries, not as extended, but now if we start involving cusps and whatnot, maybe we need to start discussing an onlay or a crown or whatever that might be. Or, also really helping them understand whether you're going from, a partial or a denture. So, and, it creates a visual record. So again, not only for the patient, but whether it's for insurances or whatnot. And there are plenty of digital intraoral cameras on the market that, range from all different prices and how they integrate with the software that you have at your office and whatnot. So it's not a huge investment, and it's an investment that will really take you far, so that you can be able to, come up with treatment. Because the most important thing I would say is, or not the most, but a very big thing is to be able to set that patient up to schedule an appointment as soon as they are walking out of the office. You want that confidence and you want that urgency. And it doesn't mean that, oh, this patient needs to be in your chair tomorrow, unless there's obviously a huge problem. But it's being able to, not let that patient leave and just think about it, unless obviously it's a huge treatment plan, which is always best to really sit down separately with them and discuss if you have a consult room, or, just really setting aside that time so that you, as the dentist, and you as the dental assistant, can be involved in helping out in this situation, and then having your financial coordinator come in and really wrap things up, which is its own skill. So digital scanners. So there's a lot of different ones on the market. The one that is in here is iTero. So these are actually my teeth. And then there's Prime Scan. There's Trios. So I mean, just a lot of them that are out on the market. That is not blood on my back molar over there. But yeah, and so there are different ways of being able to show, like here I can show the patient some occlusion issues if they have any, showing where they're hitting a little bit harder where they shouldn't, talking about, anterior guidance, if I want to get into that, depending on, what that patient's needs are. So these are when these can come in handy, and just the fact that they're also showing, tooth color and whatnot, so the patient can really understand, oh my gosh, this is my mouth. So you get also just the comfort for that patient of the faster, more accurate impressions. So they're not dealing with the goop. Everyone loves that, and it's really efficient. And you can really get all people involved in this, whether it's your assistants, whether it's your hygienists. Everyone can have training on this and be able to help the patient understand. And there's so many different things that you can use these digital scanners for in whatever role you play in the office. And, whether it's showing plaque, I mean, there's a lot of different things that they do nowadays. So really look into investing into something like that for your office. So treatment planning software. So one very good software that you can use is one that will create before and after simulations. Okay. So that can really help a patient understand, oh, am I going, what looks better on me? Is it just, 4 veneers from 7 to 10? Is it 6 veneers from 6 to 11? Or should I even go more? Because, that was one case that I recall that we showed the patient those different options and how that patient would smile and how many teeth are on display. And so that we brought us from a 4-unit case to an 8-unit case, because now they saw, oh my gosh, like my teeth are so dark. And now if I put, just in these, 4 front teeth, something that looks a lot lighter and makes me look younger, it's going to show a huge contrast where it just looks like I have teeth from here to here. So that really helps a patient visualize things, because not all patients see what we see, and not all patients see the potential. A lot of them, bring in the picture and, of, whomever's smile that they love, and they Julia Roberts, for instance, and make me look like her. And, it's like, I need to make you look like the best you. I can't make you look like somebody else, but let's see what features you like from these pictures and see how we can make this look the best. And again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So, what looks pretty to you might not look pretty to them, or vice versa. I remember, one lady who she was really dead set on having a diastema between her teeth. And it was like, okay, this doesn't, to me, it's not the prettiest, but, to you, if that's what makes you you, and this was, I'm sorry, this was in a denture, by the way. So she really wanted to keep her diastema, but, then you kind of sit back and realize, like, that's what makes that person them. They've always had this diastema. They're proud of it. Just rock it then, and if I can create this in a denture for you and keep up that diastema, why not? That's what makes dentistry even more cool. Printed or emailed plans. That way, the patients can go through and really see, hey, what does this mean? And, maybe they won't question you as much because they see your transparency. Okay. And all of that increases clarity and retention. So let me show you a case. So this was a case actually that my father did, and I just really loved the pictures. And so it just really showed what the potential was. So this was how this patient of his came in, and he's not the one that wanted to keep the diastema. Don't worry, he didn't go to full dentures. But he did really miss that diastema because he used to use that for breaking sunflower seeds. So he learned that that was not what he needs to do with his teeth. So we were able to take a picture of him as he is, or was rather, and be able to use a simulator to show him what the potential of his smile was. And this really helped him understand, man, I can go from this to this. It's like, from Princess Diaries. And creating a princess. And how can we make this happen? And this really helps you, sell, again, for lack of a better word, a case, and have that patient accept a case that you would really like to do, as long as you have the proper training, of course. So this is actually, it's not a close-up picture, but this is my dad. And so you can kind of see here he was in his final smile, but you can see enough just how happy he was. And so my dad, you can recognize now, he's on the left-hand side pointing. And this was after they finished. They all went out to a Chinese restaurant, and we were all, like I said, very close to our patients with having such a small practice. And now, that's the smile that he gets to enjoy and unfortunately not eat sunflower seeds with, but yeah. So again, this is what you can show a patient can, be the outcome of their smile, but it also helps you discuss with the lab, hey, I would like this to look like this. How can we make this look like, how can we create this product for this patient? Visual aids and animations. I use this chairside instructor from the ADA so often, and literally I only show them it's pretty much one page that I focus on. But basically it's a bridge because a lot of people don't understand a bridge, what that is. And so it really has some good visuals to help them see, how the teeth need to get reshaped. I always try and use reshaped as a word instead of shaved down or drilled or whatever it is, so that they can, it's not so scary. And so, how are we going to reshape the teeth so that on either side of this empty space to be able to create this bridge, and that's permanently put in your mouth. And it just really can help them understand all of this. And this is not necessarily something that only the dentist needs to use. There are a lot of photos, and there's a lot of other types of these instructors. That and books and videos. What else is there? Casey was one that they also provide videos and whatnot so that patients can understand what's going on, because sometimes it just helps for them to see it instead of them Googling it themselves and finding out some weird way of how something happens. Technology in action. So here's kind of a workflow example of, if we're starting to use this technology within our office, how is all of this going to lead to our case acceptance? So our first thing is we would capture those images and capture those scans in order to discuss this with the patient, review with them chair side what we see so that we're all on the same page. And then use animations to explain what the treatment options are for taking care of the cavity that we see, taking care of the missing tooth that we see. And then we're able to print or email the plan before they check out. And our front desk can now phrase things in a certain way where, hey, let's set you up for that next appointment. And then now they're not walking out and maybe never coming back. They're walking out with a promise. Okay. And of course, a patient can cancel an appointment, but at least now we have something that's set and they're a lot less likely to cancel that appointment. So let's go to our second one. So team, this is everyone who's here today. So why teamwork matters. So case acceptance depends on everyone. All of us have a little piece of this pie. The dentist is the clinical expert. We went to school to be able to perform this treatment, and that, we're advising be able to see, what is going on, diagnose properly, and understand what the best treatment options are for the patient. Our hygienist is very helpful in reinforcing the recommendations that we are saying. And I'm always very careful as the dentist when I'm walking into a hygiene check, especially if I haven't seen that patient for a while, because I don't want to do what, all the memes are of, oh my God, looks great, bye. And then our hygienist is like, oh my gosh, Dr. Mateen, why did you say that? Like I just went over, telling them that they need a floss and, their gums are horrible and there was plaque everywhere. And so I always try to choose my words differently and say, hey, I'm looking and I know I'm seeing the end product after our hygienist just did such a great job of cleaning, your teeth and whatnot. And tooth-wise, I'm not seeing any cavities, but when it comes to the gums and the bone, my hygienist, I'm sure has already gone through, what she saw. And, please make sure, let's discuss that if there's more to discuss, or, really take into account what she's saying, because it's really important for us to take care of these teeth so that we have them for a very long time. So that way I'm not walking in and poo-pooing anything that the hygienist said that maybe I just didn't hear. And that way the hygienist also continues to look good. And I think, both of us really appreciate that when it happens. Our assistant is very good with supporting visuals and creating that comfort. The assistant is, that first person that you're going to see when you, as a patient, when you come back into the office. And so even just, greeting someone by, oh, Mr. Smith, it's so nice to see you. How have you been the last, 6 months or whatever it might be, or since we last saw you? I'm very, gung ho on writing in the chart something about that patient so that I know when they come back again, I can bring that up. Like, oh my gosh, I heard you went to Florida. I remember you said you were going to go to Florida. How was your trip? And that's something that, the assistant can also read and bring up and share so that, again, we create that family-like atmosphere instead of, you know, hey, come here, please, let's sit down and, that kind of interaction. And our front office, financial clarity goes without being said of how important that is, being able to explain and be transparent what the insurance covers, what you're expected to cover. Hey, this insurance is more of a coupon or whatever it might be, and really set those expectations so there are not any surprises, because you yourself know a lot of times, in the reviews that you might get on Google, it says a bunch of things about, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I was going to have to pay for this or whatever. And it's like, well, we need to be able to explain that to our patients better. And scheduling. So of course, the moment that patient calls for the very first time and is welcomed into the practice, that's your front desk is the one who's doing that, and they have to have a nice attitude in order to, again, create that peace and that welcome for that patient. What is the dentist's role? So the dentist's role is to have a confident presentation, create empathy and clarity for that patient, and a clear recommendation. And I always try to summarize at the end of my meeting with them, my appointment with them, of, hey, let's just review one more time. This is what we discussed. Here's the next plan. And even try to schedule that patient in the room. So make it a lot easier for when they check out. All they have to do is pay or say bye, whatever it might be. Instead of, oh, let me see. Can you hold on a second because I have someone on the phone, and, let me just make sure I understand what needs to be scheduled, stuff like that. Hygienist's role, reinforce urgency during hygiene visits, that preventive care, or if they see, if a cavity is diagnosed, being able to reinforce, hey, this needs to be taken care of before it becomes a root canal or we end up losing that tooth. Using consistent language, again, making sure that the language of the hygienist matches with the language of the dentist. It really helps reinforce a point, because if a patient hears something multiple times from multiple people, it's going to stick in their head a lot better. And supporting education, whether it's through that, showing videos, pictures, whatever it may be, using that intraoral camera, using the scanner. Those are all really important things to support the education of that patient for the treatment that they need. The assistant's role, help position a camera or a scanner, take those scans yourself, be confident and do all of that, because it's really exciting to be more involved in the patient's appointment, reinforcing the benefits of the treatment that they're getting, whether you're saying, gosh, I had a filling the other day too, and this is how it felt, or whatever it might be, that's always really good, because the patient sees, sometimes can be really afraid of the dentist, as we all know, and might not say something or forget to say something. And they can, for the assistant, they can kind of relate a little bit better, because, they don't find you as intimidating as the one walking in with the white coat. And creating smooth transitions, whether it is between appointments, whether it is, schedule, being able to go from a filling to a crown or whatever it might be, doing all of that is the assistant plays a very big role in. So one of the things that your assistant can do, or you as an assistant, if you're on this lecture, is take photos. This is the photograph, the camera that I have. And this is my little baby, but I love this thing for being able to educate patients. And some, just a tip that I learned through another seminar that I had taken was by taking pictures, you're able to kind of, instead of doing one tooth dentistry, you're able to sell quadrant or even full mouth dentistry if that's what's needed for that patient. Because now they're able to see a lot more than just the intraoral camera photo, which is usually just 1 to 2 teeth. And they see the whole thing and they're like, gosh, maybe I do need to take care of this. And let me just take care of this year, focus on this one. And then next year, we'll focus on this one and get my mouth taken care of so that I can prevent major problems from occurring. So we can train assistants to be able to take this series of photos, and this is a series of photos that I take for all of my patients for our full face, our profile smile, and you can see this was one that you'll see a little blip in a moment from our training, but our profile smile, our full smile, you can see why this patient came in. Our rest position. This one's really important. This is the one that we have the patient lick their lips and say, Emma, and just stay there. Because if a patient is not showing enough tooth, it makes them look older. And so, and it goes by age. And so that's where that becomes an important photo. Front teeth retracted. You can use the patient to help you out with this. Front teeth or front retracted, but teeth apart. Sorry, I know I said that wrong earlier. Front retracted teeth together. There we go. And then this one, front retracted teeth apart. Right lateral, left lateral, upper occlusal, and then here's where we had a little blip. But sometimes those pictures just aren't easy to get. But practice makes perfect. And any additional photos. So obviously in this for this case, I was looking into treatment planning to place some implants in that lower anterior, and so that's why I took some of these photos. Our front office role, explain the payment options, whatever you have in your practice, be able to confidently schedule the patient. Scheduling is a beast and scheduling is an art. And you have to know where you can double book someone, where, you can make things flow for the office, because a day that doesn't flow is a miserable day for everyone. So, front office has a huge role in in our everyday. And so please don't ever think, minimize that, because it's really an important thing for the entire practice to succeed. And then a warm handoff and follow through. So, whether it's everything's done now, the assistant takes the patient and goes up to the front and says, hey, I've already scheduled this patient. I know they just owe a little bit of money or whatever. Can you discuss, what's owed next? And for their next appointment, here you are. And so that way now it's not just, I'm just going to drop off this patient and hope the front desk, figures out what's going on. So communication consistency. So as we've discussed, we want the same message across the team. We want to avoid contradicting statements, and we want to use those handoffs to recap treatment and make sure that the patient knows what's next and they're fully informed. A tip is to use a phrase like, as Dr. Montine recommended, this is important to complete soon. Okay. So, that's just really being consistent with everything and being able to really follow through instead of, like I said, just letting the patient leave and not schedule that next appointment or really understand what needs to be taken care of. So let's talk a little bit about, I know we started a little bit late with the announcements and whatnot. So, but we have plenty of time to talk about DISC personality types. So I want to get into DISC, which is a model where people can be profiled in a way where of what personality type they have, whether they're a D, an I, an S, or a C. So you can go online and go to discprofile.com. Again, I have no connection to any of this, but you can go to discprofile.com and be able to kind of take a test yourself and really understand what you are. And I am very curious of what you think you are. And once we go through these, please feel free to put them in the chat if you're comfortable, just to see, out of all the different, whether you're the dentist, the assistant, front office, each of us has a different personality type and how that kind of relates to your role in the office. office. So what is DISC? It's the best-selling, non-judgmental personality and behavioral assessment used by more than 1 million people every year to improve teamwork, communication, and productivity. This was something, these are some slides that their website has, but I really just wanted to share this so that you can understand an easy way to be able to assess people on your team and be able to hire the right people for your team. Because if you have someone who doesn't really mesh as well with the team because of that personality type that they have, maybe they're not the best person for you to hire. But then it also really helps with you recognizing your patient of this person is a D, so they're going to be that type of person who just wants to get in and get out with as least information as possible. Or a C, which is that engineer type of person who wants those details and needs a little bit of TLC. So your D style is someone who is more driven, direct, decisive, strong-willed, self-confident, daring, determined, and fast-paced, okay? I will say I myself am a little bit of a D, okay? So D style. I have I will say that I'm not completely that. You'll see there's some other parts that I will say a little bit of the I and the S and the C. The test is really cool just to see, you know, kind of what are your top ones of all of those letters. So with your D style, that's someone who's motivated by power and authority. They like to win, competition, success. And so, you know, that's someone who, when you're giving your treatment plan, you're going to say, gosh, that smile is really going, you know, if you take care of the smile and, you know, have these, you know, this makeover or whatever and full mouth rehab, this is really going to get you more money. You're going to be more successful because you're going to be that top realtor in town or whatever it is. That's something that, you know, as the assistant or the front office, hygienist, dentist, that you can say to that patient, and that's going to be like, man, this is how I'm going to sell this case, right? It's someone who values competency, concrete results, and personal freedom. And it's someone who fears loss of control, being taken advantage of, and vulnerability. Okay. So, you know, there's someone, like I said, you have to be very clear and straightforward, to the point, and just, you know, this is what it's going to be. And how are we going to take care of this in the best way possible for you? Because they like to be the center of attention. So a quote that someone that's D style might say is, what's the point of playing if winning isn't the goal? Right. I heard one from someone I know who is a D style the other day, and she said something like, if you're not in first, then you're in last. And so, you know, it's like, wow, okay, you're definitely D. So it's interesting, just kind of after we go through this presentation, you know, just kind of look around and think about the people in your life of what different styles they have. So as mentioned, when you're communicating with D styles, you want to give them that bottom line, be brief and speak up, focus your discussion narrowly, avoid generalizations, refrain from repeating yourself because they just want to get in and get out and get moving, and focus on solutions rather than problems because they don't want those explanations. I style, that's someone who's more charming, more collaborative, energizing, trusting, enthusiastic, impulsive, optimistic, and persuasive. So I would definitely say I'm more of the D and the I style myself. This is someone who's motivated by social recognition, group activities, and relationships. So they tend to be more extroverted. Values coaching and counseling, freedom of expression and individuality, fears social rejection, people pleaser over here, disapproval, loss of influence, and being ignored, okay? So someone who is I would say something like, whoever is happy will make others happy too, okay? That's something that Anne Frank had said. So communicating with an I style person, you're wanting to share experiences, allow them time to ask questions and talk, focus on the positives, avoid overloading them with details. Don't interrupt them because, again, they like to be able to be that influencer and say what they need to say and get their point across, and show respect for their spontaneity, high energy, and optimism. Okay. S style. This is someone who's calm, patient, predictable, deliberate, stable, warm, passive, and loyal. Okay. So I myself, I would say I'm quite loyal. I'm quite warm, but sometimes, you know, staying calm isn't my biggest forte because I can get very overwhelmed sometimes and want to do too many things. So S style, you're motivated by cooperation, opportunities to help, and sincere appreciation. You value loyalty, helping others, and security. You fear loss of stability, change, loss of harmony, offending others. An S style person would say something like, the invariable mark of wisdom is to see the miraculous in the common. Okay. So, how would you communicate with S styles? You want to be personal and amiable. You want to express your interest in them. Let them know what you expect of them. Take time to provide clarification. Be polite and avoid being too confrontational or too aggressive, okay? Because you're not trying to sell them on something. You need to just explain things and be like, okay, yeah, I really want to see how we can make this work for you. And, what kind of questions do you have for me? I'm here for you. Please, talk to me. So these are different ways that we can discuss, with those types of S-style patients. C style, they're the engineers that I was talking about. So the cautious, more systematic, more private, objective, analytical, diplomatic, accurate, and more reserved. So a C style person is going to be motivated by opportunities to gain knowledge, to show their expertise, and by quality work. Okay, so they're the ones that want to see those before and after pictures that you've already done. They value quality, accuracy, and challenge. They fear criticism, slipshod methods, and being wrong. So a C style person might say it takes less time to do a right thing than to explain why you did it wrong. So kind of measure twice, cut once. So how to communicate with C styles, we want to focus on facts and details, minimize pep talk or emotional language, be patient, persistent, and diplomatic, respect their preference to work independently. They might want to do some more research when they get home. Don't be put off by their more detached approach. That's just how they are. There's nothing wrong with that. You might be the same way. Allow time to get to know each other better and to avoid misunderstanding. So just some reminders, all disc styles are equally valuable, whether it's in your practice, whether it's your patients. Everyone has a role and everyone contributes in a certain way. And really everyone is a blend of all four styles. I know many of you don't really know me at all, but I'm sure you can kind of see how some of these, traits, some of the traits that I discussed maybe already show for each of those categories. And people can adapt their styles to fit particular situations or environments. So you might be one way at home, you might be another way at the office, you might be another way when you go to the grocery store. Who knows? So last but not least is our third T, which is training. So that's our missing link. So without training, there's inconsistent messaging, there's team discomfort, and low confidence. But with training, there's professional, clear communication, better prepared for objections, and unified patient experience, which is what we want, which is what's going to make us go home happy at the end of the day. Training focus areas are communication and objection handling. How do we take criticism? How do we deal with conflict? How do we produce results? And how do we gain trust? And that's among each other as colleagues and with our patients. We want to be able to have those financial discussions with our patients. We want to be able to be proficient in our technology by being able to take great pictures, being able to scan well, and being able to, show our patients what we see, and having some scripting but authentic language to be able to communicate with our patients in a consistent manner that helps them understand what we see and how their smiles can be. So some examples of how you can do this are whether they're role-playing scenarios with the team, recording case presentations, if that's something that, a patient might be comfortable with, so you can critique one another. Morning huddles is a huge thing that can really help and make sure everyone's on the same page, or maybe say, hey, this patient's coming in, it's their birthday tomorrow. Make sure you say, happy early birthday. Stuff like that goes a long way. Vendor lunches, lunch and learns, and continuing education courses and conferences that you can all go to. So bringing it all together in close, we have an integrated workflow recap where we visualize our diagnosis with technology, reinforce using all of our team members, present clear financial options to our patients, and consistent follow-up with the patients, whether, if they say, hey, I'm not ready to schedule right now, well, you put a little reminder to call them in a week and say, hey, are there any other questions that came up this last week? How can I help you answer them? Key takeaways, like we discussed: technology builds trust, team alignment ensures clarity, training empowers confidence, and together, these are what's going to drive us to that 80% plus acceptance rate in order to close our cases. So this was just the reference for our disc profile content. This is my information, whether you want to ask me any questions on Instagram or email, or you can scan that QR code, and it gives you all of that information and just saves it into your phone so that you can contact me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions.